So Keith, if there's a private buyer, what is that, and how does EquipmentStore.com service them?
So a private buyer would be just more like an end user. So somebody buying a little tractor or skid steer for their house or for their farm, or for their farmhouse, or
okay,
you know, it's going to be very similar to the small business owner in the sense that they're going to be they're spending their own dough. So it's not a small or medium-sized business where it's a plant manager or a buyer, you know, or a warehouse manager or a maintenance manager that does the purchasing. It's just a regular Joe off the street, essentially.
Okay.
Buying either for his personal use, or he's maybe a contractor, but doesn't have a business technically, but he's, you know, buying a machine to start something or whatever it may be. Or a lot of times it's private buyers with property that are buying smaller stuff, utility type stuff, a lot of Bobcats and smaller kind of stuff like that. Or so, generators, like air compressors, the little generators, the little Hondas and such, or you know, just to have, you know, in any type of residential application.
So it's probably likely more residential. Not only is it my money I'm spending, I'm probably actually going to be using this thing. So in terms of
living,
understanding and appreciate the machinery, and it's got what I want or what I'm used to operating, or, you know, whatever knobs and pulleys and stuff, it could be all the more important to me. It seems like, you know, to me personally, than, you know, just a plant manager or something to make sure it's gonna fit what I'm used to using. And even, does there have to be a comfort level in terms of, yeah, well, this is kind of interesting. So yeah, residential. All right, maybe I moved into a bigger house with a bigger yard, and, you know, I've never had one of those bigger honking tractors, say. I mean, will that play that I have to feel comfortable going, okay, I feel pretty good? And I guess I asked this question in terms of somebody who's selling something. Do they have to think a little different how they describe it for a private buyer versus, you know, a pro, in terms of here's how you use this equipment, or here's how it's, you see what you know where I'm getting here? Like,
yeah, I kind of see where you're going with that. I don't think there's a big difference as far as like the description of what it is, but I think the privately owned stuff is just going to stick out for itself. It's going to be more unique looking. It's, you know, the stuff that hasn't been in a rental fleet is going to show much nicer. And like I said, we're just going to encourage all those good photos and multiple as many photos as possible, and good photos too.
Well, it's funny. Will that be under this? I mean, what kind of a category? I mean, would you go ahead and call, I don't know, residential use, or, you know, residential use equipment, and that becomes a filter to find something? You're gonna be able to filter through either you're either coming in as you know, a privately owned or a dealer, essentially, right? So okay, yeah,
to be able to sort that way, there's going to be much more dealers than privately owned stuff. But we want, and like above all, Equipment's always went after the unique privately owned stuff, and Equipment Store is definitely going to be in that same vein for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just look at the other question. What do they want to find on this site? I guess that was the question I had. If a private buyer might tend to be more of a residential guy like me, who's buying something maybe I've never used before, you know, as well as understand what it is I'm buying. Do I need to feel comfortable with the idea that I can use it? Like, does a seller have to take that in consideration when putting together their page? You know, not just what it does, but I don't know. I'm thinking out loud of, you know, if I was buying a big old tractor and I never did, I might be like, crud, is this too big for me? And I might need something talk to me like, hey, don't worry. You know, this tractor is made for idiots like you to use. You know, it's got a seat just like every, you know, your little tractor does. And it's got, you know, I don't know if there's anything that the seller of this stuff has to think about in terms of talking to, you know, somebody who may be a residential buyer or not. So,
yeah, I think You make a good point. You also mentioned the controls earlier. They all have different controls. The Bobcats. Like, it's funny. The old school guys, like, there's like pedals and levers, but you can also order them. The younger guys, they're all joysticks on both sides. So anybody like under 35 or 40 prefers the joysticks, and then anybody over that prefers the levers and pedals.
That's kind of funny. No, that's a great insight.
And that filter's not on a scissor lift. Scissor lifts come one way. There's no options. That always drove me and still drives me nuts about the skid steer, because you'll find the perfect one for the guy, but it doesn't have the joysticks. And it just makes it that much more hard, because they want enclosed cab, this, that, 70 horsepower with the joysticks. You find all four boxes at a great price. You don't get the joysticks. So that's just the way it is. But so for a private buyer, the experience is going to be just similar to everybody else, basically. I think they'll just be, they won't be overwhelmed with just so much, so many options, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Options that don't exist, just a lot of it's smoke and mirrors anyway.